I don't know that Kyle needs a lot of introduction. Many of you saw him during the conference a couple weeks ago, but Kyle always brings some sort of fabulousness wherever he goes, and today is no different. Today, the topic is fabulous strategies to price your coaching services. And just a brief intro to Kyle. For those of you that may have missed a session or may have not gotten to experience his prior involvement in GCA, Kyle Elliott is a career coaching practice, has a career coaching practice, and he primarily serves tech workers who live in metropolitan areas like San Francisco, Austin, Texas, New York City, and even Bangalore, India. Excuse me. Kyle is very much a career expert, and he helps people get unstuck and, as you already know, own their fabulousness. So Kyle, so glad to have you here today and working through with you on this interview. The first question to bring everyone up to speed, because I know your journey has been anything but a straight line through your entrepreneurial career. Do you want to just tell everyone a little bit about how you got into coaching and kind of bring us up to speed on how you got to where you are?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be continuing the conversation from the conference. I think what's interesting about my journey is I never planned to be a coach. I never went and got a master's in coaching or said, hey, this is the route I want to go. It happened completely by accident. My sophomore year of college, I went on Fiverr and said, hey, how can I make money to support my coffee addiction? And I was like, hey, I'm good at getting jobs. I'm good at giving people unsolicited insights and feedback. Maybe I can review resumes. So I literally charged $5 to review resumes and to write LinkedIn profile summaries. And then once Fiverr took their cut, I made like $3.75. So if I did 3 or 4 of these an hour, I made like 15, 20 bucks an hour. When you're in college, that's some nice extra money on the side. So I'd make $50, $100 a week. It was great. And then over time, I slowly started raising my rates. I left Fiverr and found people on Craigslist, on LinkedIn. And then I continued this in undergraduate and grad school, got a job post-grad school. And then for that first year post-graduate school, I had a full-time job and was like, okay, this is great. This is going to keep being a side hustle. And then that full year of having my full-time job, the side hustle kept growing. And at one point I was doing 20, 30 hours a week of this side hustle while also doing my full-time job. So I renewed my contract at work thinking this is just going to keep being a side hustle. And then a month later, I went into my boss and said, oops, I made a mistake. I need to leave. I'm going to go run my business full-time. And that was about 4 years ago. And now I've been doing it full-time for the last almost 4 years now. So it's been 8 years total. And what's been really interesting is it wasn't a big leap. It wasn't a big, hey, I'm going to jump into this. It's just been slow and steady, 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, and slowly building it from Fiverr. And I never went out to go be this expert in Silicon Valley or high tech. It was completely by accident because so many of my referrals just came by word of mouth, by people in the Bay Area, because that's where I was living. And now I have this multi-6-figure coaching practice working with these executives at Facebook, LinkedIn, Amazon, and I absolutely love nearly every minute of it.
I love how real your story is, Kyle, because it wasn't like you started off with a business plan that you wrote,
No.
10-plan business plan, and it executed just according to everything you had set. You very much followed with experience you were getting with your clients and the value you're providing. That's awesome. How did you, this whole presentation today is on pricing.
Mm-hmm.
How did you went from $5? How did you get to, because you're definitely not at $5 now. How did you come up with your pricing model that you use now? And
so a lot of it's from my dad, and my dad and I are very opposite. I'm not very tech savvy, but a lot of my clients are in tech. And my dad's given me amazing advice along the way. So like when I created business cards, I showed them to my dad and said, hey, can you look at this? What's your advice? And he's like, hey, your email's on here twice. And one of them was my website and one was my email. So he's very not tech savvy. So I love getting his insights. Or I was like, hey, I have this wait list. What do I do? And he said, oh, double your prices and half the wait list will go away. And then if it doesn't work out, give 50% off and then you're back to your old price. So every time I had a wait list of more than a few weeks, I just kept doubling my prices. And there was no strategy behind it. It's just my dad's advice. And sometimes I would double my prices after a year, and sometimes I doubled them after 3 months. And I just kept doubling them and doubling them. In the beginning, that's easy, $5 to $10, 10 to 20, 20 to 40. And then after a while, it kind of gets scary. It's 75 to 150, 150 to, then I did 250. And then most recently it was 250 to 475. So as you get higher, it gets scary, but I just kept taking my dad's advice. And he said, hey, if you lose half your business, you're still making the same amount of money in half the time, and use that other half of the time to focus on marketing and these other things. And then another coach gave me advice too. He's in the Forbes Coaches Council with Brian and I, and he said, hey, find a price that just makes you feel like you're gonna throw up a little, and that just makes you uncomfortable. And at the beginning, it wasn't that way, but I remember when I charged like $40 for one of my first resumes, I was a college student, $40 is a lot. I was making like $8 an hour, and I'm like, 5 hours to write a piece of paper. It made me nervous. And as I've doubled my prices, it did that. But I realized I'm challenging my clients to do the same thing, to go apply at Facebook or Amazon or LinkedIn. And I'm encouraging them to do things that are going to make them feel like they're going to throw up. So I've taken that as I go and double my prices, as I go set these packages that are scary, and that's helped so much.
Yeah, Kyle, I'm curious how, as you doubled your prices, how often, over how much time period? So like, was it 6 months or was it like a year, or until you had to, make yourself feel uncomfortable and go to that next level?
Usually I get comfortable after the first time I raise it. So I just introduced a new package last week on Wednesday, and then on Thursday I ended up selling a package of it. So usually I always get nervous after the first time I raise it. And then as soon as I sell it, I'm like, okay, there's people out there, because I'm worried I'm gonna hit this ceiling. And then I realized, regardless of the price I've been at, when I was $5, people told me I charged too much. Why would you charge $5 to review a resume when I can get it for free? And then now some of my packages start at $3,000, and then I just had someone who made $32,000 a year say, oh, this is so cheap, Kyle. Why are you doing it for so cheap? And that same package, a lady who made $300,000 a year said, oh my God, this is so expensive. I can't afford that. And it's just super interesting. And my responsibility isn't to think about how they think about price, how they're going to pay for it, how they're going to afford it. It's for me to serve them, and then for them to decide how they're going to pay for it. But for me, the confidence usually just comes after that first person, and then realizing there's more and more people out there who are willing to pay for it. Because we have millions of people, at least in the US, who pay $100,000, $200,000 for an education. And that's a 4-year, 6-year, 8-year commitment. So for them to do this, where oftentimes they're getting even more value for a lot less, it's easier for me to sell it.
It's fascinating how value is so individual.
Mm-hmm.
Those cases you mentioned are really interesting. How you mentioned your dad, saying, double your price, and if you lose half your clients, it's no big deal. I'm curious of, and if I'm not putting you on the spot, feel free to pass on this, but did you have an experience with losing many clients, or do you actually go back and raise? Do your services work in a way that you actually raise your prices as well once you double it?
Yeah, so I don't raise them for past clients. If someone's on a retainer, they just stay where they are. But I've actually had people, I just had a lady, not this year, but the end of last year. She worked with me on Fiverr like 4 years ago. And then she came back and said, oh my gosh, I see your prices are a lot higher now. I guess I'll just pay your new prices. And then she paid several $1,000s for a new package. And she had paid $5 to work with me before. And she's like, oh, if you're charging this much, clearly you're getting results. Clearly people are paying this, there's some value. And then we work together. And in my mind, when she scheduled this consult, I'm like, oh shit, we're gonna have to meet in the middle, or I'm gonna have to refer her out to someone else. But I go into those conversations trying to let other people lead the way. And something I think is unique about the consults I do, I try to only ask questions during the entire call. I don't educate, I don't inform, I don't do anything other than just try to go the entire call only asking questions. So if someone never asks us about my packages or my process or next steps, I don't talk about it. I only ask questions and let them lead to next steps. And then she said, okay, I see your prices are more. What's next steps? How do I get started? And I just let them lead to it rather than me saying, okay, I realize my prices are more. How do you feel about that? Nope, I just let them lead to the next steps.
Yeah, people love to talk about themselves, and the point is them. So I love that precedent that sets.
And then they're experiencing 25 minutes of coaching by me just asking the similar questions I would ask during our coaching sessions themselves.
Do you get many people, again, I don't mean to put you on the spot with this, do you get many people asking for discounts or saying, you know, trying to like negotiate on price? How do you advise on that?
Sometimes I find actually the clients who make more money, because that's one of the questions I ask in the intake, because we're doing career coaching, is what's your salary? I find if they're really high level clients, they tend to negotiate the price. And I've talked to other career coaches, and I find that's just what they do. If someone's negotiating a new vendor or whatnot, they're going to negotiate. So what I do is turn it back on them and say, hey, how would you feel if you're going in to negotiate your CEO role and the board said, hey, I know the market's paying 500,000 a year, but we want to pay you 250,000. Is that okay with you? Would you take half of your value? And then they quickly say, oh, I don't want to take half my value. So I say, I'm not going to take half my value. And I really want to model for you. I'm going to accept my worth and only my worth and nothing less. So that's why I don't negotiate my prices. And this is what I'm going to accept based on what it's worth. And then people typically accept the price.
Right. Wow, that's really good advice.
Yeah, and I think connecting it to them and reflecting on themselves is really helpful, because people seek a coach out who's really modeling what they're looking for in their careers and their businesses and their lives.
What I like about that is it's so very coaching. You help them answer their own question without, you know, explaining or being defensive or, you know, just having to explain your worth. I mean, it's yeah, put it in terms that they understand, they comprehend. Do you see coaches making any common mistakes when it comes to pricing that, you know, that you could help us avoid?
Yeah, I find they tend to overthink it a lot. So I have a portfolio of coaches that I coach, and so often they spend all this time thinking about their pricing. They're like, Kyle, do I charge $9.99 or $1,000 for this package? Do I do 4 sessions or 6 sessions? Do we meet 2 times a month, 3 times a month? They spend all this time focusing on the pricing, the packages, the marketing, instead of actually doing the coaching. And they're avoiding some of this coaching. So I think it's really important to actually spend time doing the coaching and not spending so much time on these things. Because at least me, I haven't met a client where like they're going to go with another coach because you charged $1 more, $1 less, or you've offered 4 sessions instead of 6 sessions. And that's made or break it, like whether they choose to work with you. So I think it's really important to decide where you place that energy. And if you're placing a ton of energy on your pricing and marketing, say, okay, what am I really avoiding here? Why am I avoiding the coaching? Or why am I avoiding, like Carson said, going through my phone book and reaching out to people? And then what I also find is a lot of the clients I work with who are coaches will spend a ton of time researching what every other coach is charging. I've had some people like put together spreadsheets and say, here's what every other coach charges. And I find that's really irrelevant. At least the clients I talk to, rarely are they talking to other coaches. Just like the dentist, he's like, oh, you're a career coach? You write resumes? I don't know anyone else who does that. I didn't even know people do that for a living. And I find oftentimes because we're coaches, we're surrounded by all these other coaches, but a lot of the people I work with, they don't know any other coaches. They don't even know this as a profession. So we're worried about people researching all these other people, but because a lot of us, when we've talked last week, so much of our business is by referrals, it's not like we're being compared and people are calling 8 different mechanics to see the best price. They're only talking to us. So I think it's important to not worry too much about competing on price, because then it just comes down to who's charging the most or less. And our clients often, at least the people I work with, have yet to find that they're doing a bunch of shopping based on the best price. And if they are, they're probably not my ideal client, because they're just trying to get fixed really, really quick. And that's not what I'm doing. And then around price, I find a lot of coaches also, at least this isn't my methodology, but it's try and surprise clients with price, or say, you know what, I really don't want to share price. I need to talk to you. I need to get an idea of who you are, and won't give any idea of pricing without getting on the phone with people. And I think it's a disservice to some clients to not be somewhat transparent around pricing and not at least give people a ballpark, get on the phone and then say, well, I need to educate clients around the value. And I think I'm a fan and proponent of being transparent around pricing and listing it on a website, or at least if people inquire, giving them a ballpark so they don't get on the phone and then you say, oh, the minimum investment's 20 grand, and then have this kind of strange conversation where a client feels like they were hoodwinked. So I'm a big fan of being transparent around pricing rather than trying to hide it and make clients feel like they have to go through like a timeshare presentation before they can hear how much you charge.
Timeshare, that's a good example. It brings, yeah, that's a good practice not to make people go through that. Kyle, you answered, I had another follow-up question. You already answered to some degree of the posting prices on the website. Do you find that people, when they reach out to you, are they scheduling through your website, they've seen your prices, or are most people don't have any clue and you're just being filled in when they come to you?
So I used to have some people who wouldn't look at it and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm surprised by these prices, even though they're on my website. So what I do is I don't allow people to schedule consultations through my website. I really want it to be a like bespoke, customized process. And I think of like a good barber or a good accountant or something. You can't just go on their website and book them as an accountant or anything like that. You have to go through an application process. So that's what I like doing with my clients. Instead of people just being able to book me right there, a call, I have an application and say, hey, here's what I want to learn about you, and actually ask coaching questions in my application. Where are you stuck? What do you want to achieve? Those sorts of things in that application. And then in there, I list my prices too and say, here's the minimum investment. It's going to be energy, time, effort to work together. Are you prepared to make this investment? Or do you want a referral to someone else? And then I write resumes, and I'm not a resume mill. I don't just turn it around, but I do coaching to get their stories out. And it's a minimum of 4 weeks. So I put all that in there, and people have to go through and actually click yes for all of that. So I'm a fan of doing that to kind of vet people. And I found I get less people reaching out that way, but my consultations are through the roof because every person who reaches out is pre-qualified. And then when I get on the phone, they know my prices, they know my timeline, they're the right salary. And then if I decide I want them on my calendar, I then say, hey, you've reached out, you're a great fit, here you go. Or if I know they're not going to be a great fit, like I don't work with attorneys, for example, because that's just not my zone of genius. I don't work with doctors. I can say, hey, here's someone else who works with attorneys. Here's someone who works with doctors. I can then send them out to someone else. And I found that just cuts down on the clutter and not wasting my time on calls where I know it's not going to be in my zone of genius.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. I wonder if you've read the book Passion Economy, because a lot of your examples and everything relate to that, and I found that one has many other examples similar to how you approach your clients, which is really constructive, right? The whole interview process, the extreme amount of value. I love about what the approach you bring.
I wrote that down. I have it. I'm huge on transparency. I want me to be transparent with clients and for them to be transparent with me. So it's a win-win and no one to be wasting anyone's time, because it's so valuable, especially Silicon Valley or where my clients tend to live and work, our time is just so valuable. I don't want to waste anyone's time, or vice versa. And I think going back to the presentation that we did before too, I want it to be a hell yes or hell no. I don't want to get on the phone and they say, oh, I don't know. Like, I want them to be sold by when they get on the phone, and it not be, are you a right fit, Kyle? But Kyle, I'm so excited for this call. How do we start working together? Let's schedule this first call, rather than it be like, oh, let's feel, I don't know. Like, I don't want that on the phone call. I want it to be a hell yes.
Yeah, no, really, really important. Kyle, I don't know if there's any other tips you wanted to share. Otherwise, we talked about opening it up just for general Q&A, because I'm sure other people have maybe more detailed questions or specific questions. Anything you want to add, Kyle, before we do that?
I think the focus on value is really important. I think oftentimes we focus too much on the process. I found a lot of times when I work with coaches, they really want to focus on, like, how many sessions am I offering? What's the process? What am I doing, rather than what's the value that people are getting, and really thinking about how can I deliver more value throughout this process. Like, something a lot of my clients value is, I really want support, Kyle, between our sessions. I'm navigating a job search, and being able to email you if I'm navigating a salary negotiation is a ton of value, Kyle, and that's really helpful. Or, Kyle, am I working with you? I get value in that. And being able to market those things can be really helpful to increase your prices. And I found, as I've gone better at marketing that, like, hey, how much is it worth staying in a job you hate? Or how much is it worth to be able to spend more time with your kids? And those sorts of things, people are willing to pay more because the value is higher, rather than saying, okay, let's work on your resume. I mean, our resume is not worth really that much money. You can get that at Top Resume. Our new job's not worth more money, but this vision, and helping them vision, what's this life you love worth? What's it worth being happy? What's it worth being able to spend more time with your partner? Those things people are willing to pay a lot more money for. And I found that to be really valuable. And then just taking risk. A lot of the coaches I work with, one of our first things we'll do is just double their price. And as soon as we do that, they just show up differently on their consultations, in their marketing, when they're actually coaching clients. When they go from $50 to $100, or $100 to $200, or $200 to $400, they just show up differently on a consultation or in the coaching sessions when they're charging at a higher price. You literally just show up differently, and just showing up differently can result in getting more leads in the door, and converting more people, and showing up stronger in coaching sessions with just their leads to more clients as well. So that's one of the first assignments I often give my clients. Okay, let's double your prices right now. And they're like, okay, what do I need to change about my program? What do I need to change? Nothing. Prices are literally made up. It's literally a social construct. Let's just double your prices right now. That's it. And then go from there and see what happens. And I think it's just so fun to mess with our minds and see what happens when we do that.
Sure is. The value, I love your continued focus on value, by the way, Kyle. There was recently a study published about how wines that cost more taste better. And it's literally a psychological thing. And it completely relates to what you're talking about with coaching, is the price can dictate the satisfaction as well. There's always the emotional value that's associated with it, beyond the tangible business or other success measures. So I love that. Should we open up for general Q&A?
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay. I see Jeff, you're raising your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, Kyle, I know coaches take a different approach for not just pricing, but how they present how to pay. Some say, here's my hourly rate and we'll do so many hours a month. Other coaches will say, here's my flat rate for the goals that you want, and you get unlimited access or whenever we need to schedule it. Do you have a particular philosophy or approach for hourly rate pricing versus flat rate pricing?
Yeah, I find when it comes to hourly rate, I try and stay away from that, because the hourly rate doesn't encompass everything. Like, I charge $475 for a session, but then they don't just get the session. They're getting notes after, they're getting homework, they're getting my support. So I try and focus on, here's everything you're getting, because rarely, I haven't met a coach where it's just that hour and they're not getting anything outside of it. And I try and present it that way. And I found that it's a lot more digestible for clients, because our focus is again on the value. Like I've had clients that say, oh my gosh, just our emails back and forth were worth the package. Like if I emailed you and you helped me negotiate 20K more in my job, that one email was worth the package right there. Or if I emailed you going through a divorce and you helped me figure out I don't need a divorce, or figured out I do need a divorce, or to be nicer to my partner, whatever it is, that's worth the package. So I try and present the whole systems rather than just an hour of my time, because they're not paying for your time, they're paying for the insights and the results. If that answers the question.
Yes, it did. Thank you. It did. Thank you.
Anyone else have a question for Kyle? Harry. You're on mute, Harry.
So I'm so sorry. Kyle, I really want to say something about the given gifts you have received. I don't know whether you're always like this, but God has been good to you in something that is involved in your presentation. And this whole thing is about you and not some abstract concept. And what I was wanted to share with you and wonder what you first of all, you have such clear and useful and powerful viewpoints that you're so thoughtful, and you've thought about all this. And this is what we want to do ourselves and have our clients do, is to clear up the viewpoints. And I had discovered from my very first clients that I've tended to keep clients for 5 or 7 or 8 years. And I didn't set out to do that, but that's what happened. And I wonder if you have that longevity with some of your clients and how they do with that.
Yeah, so I have some that have been around for several years, and probably not the best business decision, but I just keep them at the price they're at. And that's worked for me because I'm just like, okay, this is what I offered you as a retainer, and I just stay at that. I think for some coaches, when their prices significantly change, they may consider doing it differently and being honest with their client around those price changes. But for me, if they've stayed on a retainer, and I've had a number who have been here for years, I just keep them at that price, because for me, it's just good faith. And my clients aren't spending tons of hours every month. It's not like I'm doing consulting where I work 10 or 20 hours a week with them, because I'm in a few consulting groups where people do that, and it would be different. But for me, it's 2-3 sessions a month with these people. So I'm okay staying at those lower prices in the spirit of good faith.
Well, a follow-up question, if I may. I agree about the prices. I never raise a client's price. So if they're with me for 5 years, it works for me. I'm very satisfied with that. But I just wondered if you've had them and what the quality of your relationship and their life arc is like.
Yeah, I find that a lot of times what I'm going through is often also what they're going through. And I find that that's so interesting. The arcs and the changes that I'm going through are often mirrored with them. And there's a lot of similarities there in regard to the changes that I'm going through and they're going through. And I see a lot of similarities there. And I have a therapist that I've been seeing for a number of years, and I present my cases to her, or my clients to her, and what I'm going through. And we notice a lot of similarities there, and I have to be really careful that I'm not projecting what I'm going through on them, but instead of saying, okay, let me step back and be mindful that I'm not just saying, okay, here's what I'm seeing in you, because it's what I'm seeing in myself. But I think it just happens that because we attract people who are similar to us, that's what happens.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Does that help?
Who else? I know there's a couple more hands up. John.
Well, I want to thank you for this presentation. It's really interesting to hear you talk about pricing and the importance of us being empowered when it comes to pricing. And I really like your response to someone who's a CEO or something when they want to try to, which I find it's people that make more money are the ones who do want to try to negotiate down. So I like your strategy there. I'm curious about, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but about, part of your package is being available for emails or, I don't know, text message or phone calls or whatever, other things outside of just the hour. But have you ever had the experience of people kind of pushing the limits of abusing that and taking too much of your time, where you start feeling as if you haven't included enough of that in your pricing? So I'm just curious about that.
I have. And for me, I'm very clear in that and say, hey, I've noticed you've been reaching out a lot. Let's talk about that. And I think that's an amazing coaching opportunity to say, hey, you're reaching out a lot. It seems like there's some trust issues here, or you're a little nervous to maybe trust yourself and make some decisions here. And I think that can be, again, an amazing coaching conversation. My initial gut is always like, this person's annoying. Why are they reaching out so much? And then once I step back, I'm like, okay, how can this be turned into a coaching conversation? And I think that's a perfect opportunity to coach that person and say, hey, what's going on here? But I think that's also part of the reason I've raised my prices so much, is because a lot of people do reach out when you're navigating a job search. There's just a lot of nuances that come up. And then a lot of people still work with me once they land a job. So in your first 60, 90, 180 days, there's a lot of nuances. So they need that support. And then if they do reach out a lot, I say, hey, these are great. Let's cover this during our next coaching session. And some people just need that outlet to write a long email. And then I say, oh my God, this is great. Let's cover this during our next coaching session. Here's an article to tide you over until then.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I saw another hand. David.
Oh, sorry, Bernie. I'll go next. So I was just interested, Carl, and when we're talking about the clients that you're talking about, they've obviously got plenty of money. What's your thoughts on how, because coaching is a very valuable experience for everybody. Have you got any thoughts on how coaching could be available, maybe not for just the super rich or, or the wealthy?
Yeah, so I'm big on donating my time. I donate a lot of time to different nonprofits and saying, okay, where can I provide my time where it's instead pro bono? Instead of me saying, let me discount my services, I try and instead just put it in two bowls or two areas where then I'm not feeling resentful. So then there's more of a clear divide. Here's my paying clients, and then these people enable me to then go volunteer with these nonprofits and provide my services. And I found for me, that divide makes it so I'm not resentful. I've thought of maybe providing a sliding scale or saying, hey, here's a special rate for nonprofits or students. But instead, I've decided, you know what, I'm going to have my prices, and then here I'm going to offer pro bono services for nonprofits or for some schools or speaking engagements. And I found that to work really well for me. And then I've always been surprised by the people who can afford or find ways to pay for my services. I just had someone who was unemployed for several years, and they're like, oh, I have the money, I have it saved, here, let me pay for it. Or I'm going to put this on a credit card and with my first paycheck, pay it off. So I've always been surprised by the people who find ways to pay for it when they find that it's important enough to reach their goals as well.
Bernie, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, the question was kind of very connected with that one. Like, what if you are talking to someone who you really like and they just genuinely can't afford to pay, what your rates are? What do you do in that situation?
I'm a huge fan of referrals and saying, here's some people based on your budget. One of the questions I ask in that original questionnaire is, here's my prices. Are you ready to make this investment? If not, please provide your budget. And I have a really long list of different people I refer to. And then I'm in a few different Facebook groups for coaches, for resume writers. And a lot of us, what we'll do in there and say, hey, I have this person, here's their budget, here's their timeline, and then send them out as well. So really kind of any range, price range, there's people in these groups that I tend to send people out to as well. Because there's just people at different price ranges, and some people want something more bespoke, high-end, some people want something less expensive. Kind of wherever they are, there tends to be a coach that can work with you in your budget.
What about, like, how many different packages do you have? So in your application, do you have a number of different pricing options that you're putting there?
Yeah, I have a number of different pricing options, but I also have a minimum. So like to work with me, the minimum for packages, I think is $975, and then it goes up to several thousand. And then if someone's like, oh, I can't afford any of this, then I refer them out to someone. And I do single sessions, but I find the value, it's just hard for people to get a lot of value in just a single session. I think it's kind of like going to the gym and being like, I'm gonna go to the gym one day, get the free pass or their 1-day membership, and then I want to give value. And I think sometimes then in that case, it's like, let me find someone else who can give you a whole package at a lower price. And I think sometimes when I send those people out too and say, hey, here's someone in your budget, sometimes they'll work with them and then end up circling back and say, okay, I realized I really do want something more handheld and bespoke, because usually sometimes you get what you pay for depending on the level. Not always, but sometimes you get what you pay for, and they realize that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Could I add something for Bernie? The mission of the Alliance is to help gay men get coaches and to help gay men become coaches. So there are a lot of guys just starting out. And when somebody asks me and tells me they can't afford to pay, I say, I'm going to be on your case and I'm going to find a coach for you. How much can you pay? And they'll say, well, I could pay $150 a month. And I say, I'll find somebody for you. And then I go around and ask, and I put those two people together. And usually it works out for them.
Mm-hmm.
And look, you could ask probably almost all of us on this call, would you take a client for $150 for 3 sessions? And most of us would say, sure, we can do that. I think that anyway. And we have so many members now that we can really use this referral that Kyle is talking about.
Mm-hmm. And I find that's so key. I used to be afraid to turn people away. And then one of my mentors said, just build out a bigger referral list. Have this list of people at every price point, at every expertise. Like attorneys, I used to be like, oh my gosh, I have no one to send you to. And now I have someone. And doctors. And building out this referral system can be really helpful, because I would feel so guilty being like, I don't help attorneys. I have no idea who does it. I don't know, sorry. And I felt so bad because I wanted to help these people. And building out that list really helps. So then you're just not leaving people who it's, for me at least, it feels vulnerable reaching out for help. And then for someone to say, I can't help you and I have no idea who can, is like even worse. So it, for me, feels good having a whole list of people I can send them to.
Fantastic. Anyone else have a question? Alan, I thought I saw your hand up, but maybe that was.
Well, I feel like I just want to say something. There are certain things that people never talk about, and one of them is money, especially on this personal level. And I find it so touching and sexy that you are talking about this so frankly. So I just want to thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Praise.
Jeff.
So I just want to build on what Kyle said, and also Harry, and that is that when we have a great referral list, and I've noticed this because I've been trying to build my referral list over the past 2 years really intentionally. We get to do what we learned in the winter and spring conference. Focus on the clients we really want to coach, or the spaces we want to coach in, at the rates we want. I mean, the money's one thing, but it also means this is my prime coach, a coachee. And I find the more I take on clients that are in that sweet spot where I'm the best fit and they're my best fit, then I'm thrilled to refer out. It's hardly ever about the money. My first thought is usually, I'm probably 70% a good coach for you, but you know who really hits everything you need? So and so and so and so, and here's their phone numbers, and you should call them. So I think it's like what we learned from the Thomas J. Leonard of the Speakers Professional Speaking Association. We're not in a limited pie of a coaching market. Everything we do makes the pie bigger for everybody. And I think owning your rate or your value and having a strong referral list just makes the pie bigger and bigger.
Thanks, Jeff. Todd, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Kyle, so I didn't have experience in sales and marketing when I started my coaching business. So I sought out an online program offered by a coach, and I learned a lot, and it's amazing. And I feel like you know everything that she's taught me, and you know way more than that too. So kudos to you and your dad. One thing I haven't heard you talk about, but I feel like it sort of came through in the last question that Harry was asking, or the comment he was making about monthly. So I've heard people recommend against hourly rates because the client's constantly thinking about how many dollars am I spending by talking to you in this 1 hour. So a package tends to, they bite the bullet, they make the investment, and then they stop thinking about the money until the package renewal comes up. So that takes a lot of the money pressure off and the distraction. But I've never tried a monthly model. I do 9 sessions for X dollars and then I renew. But I've heard some people talk about, you know, up to 3 a month or up to 4 a month for this dollar amount. And then if they don't use it all, it's gone. There's no rollover. And I just wondered, have you experimented with that? Do you have experience with it? Do you recommend against it, for it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I have 2 options for people to work with me. I have programs. They purchase a number of sessions along with all the support and they pay up front. Or if they want payments, they use PayPal credit. I don't do like in-house payment plans. And I just tell people I'm too small. It's 1 person and I need that money to pay my rent and my car payment and my student loans and all that. And for me, again, it comes back to being honest and transparent. That's why I don't do payment plans. It's just too big of a hassle and I can't be managing all of that. My goal is to work the fewest number of hours a week. And if I'm managing all those other things and stressing about that, I can't. And then the other type of clients I work with, I have a handful who are on retainer. So people who are currently in a job or other coaches, and then they pay every month. And again, I don't do that in-house. They do it all through PayPal. And I found that to work really well. They get 2 sessions a month and then unlimited support. And then it's a monthly retainer with a 6-month minimum. And then it just renews every month. And I found that to work really well because it's just PayPal renewing every month and people really like it. And then they pay at the beginning of the month and then they get 2 sessions over the course of the next 30 days. And then it just keeps renewing. I used to do where people could pay up front for that retainer for the next 6 months. And then I signed someone that was hell. And then I was like, I have to hold on to this money. Then what if we don't work out and then refund them? So I prefer not to do like huge packages where then people, I'm stuck with them and they're stuck with me. I'd rather it be easy for people to separate. So that's why I moved to monthly retainers instead of 6-month retainers, because I don't want to be stuck and I don't want other people to be stuck because I have this 6-month minimum, but they wanted to cancel early, they could. I specifically didn't have my attorney add the 6-month minimum language to my contract. It's just an agreement.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I like the monthly too. It also gives you the option to cancel them if it's not doesn't work. It goes both ways, right?
Yeah, I've rarely had that happen. I've had like 2 bad clients and both times I had to get an attorney involved because they were like bad, like mental health challenges going on. And I feel comfortable saying that because I have my own mental health challenges, like severe mental health challenges that came up where it became obsessive and like I had to distance myself from them. But accepting all the payment up front, I then had to refund what wasn't used because I wanted to end the contract. So I found doing monthly is just easier. And then I just keep it in PayPal until the month ends with them and then pay myself. And I found that to just be easier from a stress point where I'm not like, I have all this money, but I can't really spend it until I've officially coached them and served them.
Kyle, I don't know if I'll ask you a quick question that came to mind is, what do you do from prices and then like guarantees. It is slightly related. Do you venture into that as far as guaranteeing or not?
I don't. I talk about results of past clients and share how, I mean, a vast majority of my business is referrals because clients achieve success. And some of my clients send me 2 or 3 people a month over and over. I've had some clients send me literally dozens of people, and their partners, their children, and they trust me, but I let them know it's kind of like a gym. Like, you can't get upset at the gym if you don't lose weight or gain weight or get muscles. Like, they can give you all the tools. You can have this personal trainer, but then if you get on the treadmill and just stand there, you can't then get upset at the gym if it doesn't work. So I give people the framework and I let them know there's a direct correlation between my clients who do the work and get results. And then the ones who kind of do like 80% of the work usually get like 80% of the results. And then people are on board for that. But I let them know it's not just going to be me doing the work for you. Instead, it's really, I'm like a co-pilot. I let them know I'm kind of like a pesky backseat driver, and we're driving and I'm there and I'm going to guide you and say, hey, you need gas. Hey, it's time to get snacks. Hey, you've been driving for 8 hours. Let's take a break. But at the end of the day, they're driving that car and I can't force them to slow down or speed up or get gas or force them to work out at the gym or even go to the gym. It's up to them to show up, and that's on them. So I can't guarantee anything, but I have some darn good results to show for it. And they were probably referred to me, so that person trusted me enough to work with me and that's what I found to work for people.
Great, thanks. David, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I was just interested, Carl. Because you obviously you're a very busy person, do you automate any of your practice, in other words, to leverage time? And my second part of the question is, where next for you? Because I'm curious.
Yeah, so I don't really automate a lot. I try and keep it really personal with people because I don't want it to feel automated. People are paying a premium price and I want them to feel like a human. So I'm not automating like consults. I know some people who do like a video consult where like everyone gets a video of them for their consult, or where people will have someone on their sales team talk to them before they work with them. But instead I want it to be me. So I had 2 virtual assistants at one point when I used to have a lower price and would work with like 10 or 15 people a week on their resumes, and it would be really quick services. And then I got rid of them because I decided, you know what, I really only want to work with 2 or 3 new clients a week. So I really don't automate a lot. Like, I have some template emails I'll send people and then fill in information here or there. But really most of it is just me doing the work. And that really leads to where I want to go next. I want to be working just with fewer and fewer clients and working fewer hours. My main values are free time, family, and money. And the money's in there as a big value because it lets me do the free time in family. I love spending time with family. I love going on vacations and traveling. And the money allows me to do that. That's why I'm such a big proponent of charging our worth and our value. So then I can spend more time with my partner at Disneyland and in Florida. We have a trip to Costa Rica coming up. I want to be able to do that stuff. And if I'm not charging the prices that are required to do that, I can't go do those things with him. So my goal in the next year or so is to work like 20 hours a week, so then I can even do more of those things.
Anyone else have a question for Kyle?
Oh, this is Harry, and I would just like to reiterate what Alan said, that it's very, very exciting and sexy and also vulnerable to be having this conversation about money and what to charge. And I wonder if anybody is new. I don't really know. If you're new in the business, this is a good time to ask Kyle some more questions about raising rates and getting started and expanding. And I appreciate that you were asked about what your vision is for, you know, the next phase of your life, because when I went to coaching school, they would ask people about their dream life and how they wanted to coach. And for some reason, most of these people were on an island where they had Wi-Fi and they could coach on this island. And I thought, what is going on? I wonder why people aren't saying they would like to, you know, cure cancer or help the world with poverty, or go spend a month in the jungle, you know, helping people or something like that. But it was always this island, and a BMW was usually involved in this dream. And I got tired of it. So thank you for letting me. I'm so glad you put this call together, the two of you. Thank you.
I think we've got time for one more. Jeff, I saw your hand up there for a second.
Yeah, one is a question, an observation, and then a question. So another reason I love this group is we are not a professional association. So it's great to have this confidential space to be able to share how we do business and share how we do rates and not break any RICO laws. And we have such a diverse set of practices and types of coaching we do that we're not colluding. And so I'm just really grateful because I can't do this in any other coach space that I'm connected with. The second thing is, and if this is not a question, Kyle, you can answer, or it totally contradicts the know your value and just charge it philosophy, I'm fine with that. I'm keenly aware of what the marketplace or the world is telling us about life coaching rates, family coaching rates, divorce coaching rates, executive coaching rates when the company pays for it, executive coaching rates when the company doesn't pay for it. I mean, it's just all over the place. How is that just noise, or how do you respond or acknowledge or maybe not acknowledge all that data now that it's out there and that we all seem to be exposed to it? And our clients too.
Data?
I'm sorry?
Who's telling you that data?
So some of it's coach survey reported. Some of it is institutions or organizations, companies that are publishing that. Others, it's chat rooms and this whole notion, you know, just sharing what is the market paying. It never asks, by the way, what's the value of the coach. But I was just curious what your thoughts are, since that in a lot of circles is a prevalent topic.
Yeah. So when I talk to clients, it doesn't come up that much, the price, but I like using the analogy. I like analogies, if you can't tell, of purses or cars or whatever. My partner loves purses. He collects purses. And I think of it as there's going to be purses at every single level. Even with coaches, there's a band, but there's kind of this bell curve. And I used to be like a Walmart JanSport backpack, right? And then I raised it to like your Michael Kors bag, and then your Coach bag, right? And then the Gucci bag, right? And then you get up to your like Louis bag. And then now there's the Birkin. My partner just bought one. He's freaking out, right? And you keep getting higher and higher. And a lot of the coaches are charging at that Michael Kors Coach price. And then there's some that charge at the JanSport, and then there's some that charge the Birkin. There's going to be every price range. And I think a lot of those pricing surveys, lead coaches tend up saying, okay, I need to charge in this Coach Michael Kors range. And then still some people say, oh, but I'm scared, let me charge JanSport. And then other people say, oh, I'm confident, let me charge Birkin. And it's up to you to decide where you want to go in that pyramid. And there's going to be people at every level. I just think of like cars, like some people are going to buy a Kia. I loved my Kias. And some people are going to buy like a Bentley, but most people are going to go for the Honda or the Toyota. You know what I mean? And it's just deciding who you want your market to be and what kind of coaching practice you want to operate. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It's just for you to choose what market you want to serve. Do you want to serve that middle market, or do you want to serve a different market?
That's a great perspective. Thank you for that.
Great. Well, I think we've gotten to our time here. Kyle, thank you so much. Great discussion with you. Thanks for being so candid and doing a great, just open conversation.